I just read an article the other day on it. I think it was just entitled "The Good Old Days" or something on one of the websites. And I think you get to a certain point, and you'll get there eventually, another 20 or 30 years. But you get to this age where all of a sudden you start looking back, and you're like, man, the good old days. Like things were so much easier and better. And it's not always the truth. It's just your memory gets a little skewed. Although there are a lot of times things that are better from 20 years ago, but there's a lot of majority of them that are better now, right? But I do watch riders now, and I think people don't sit as well as they did a few years ago, at least in my mind. And I mean, I get on and I look at all the old videos that I watched when I was growing up and learning to really ride, and I think I don't have riding idols position-wise anymore in current day riders as I used to from 20 and 30 years ago, if that makes sense, from old videos and things. And I don't know what, it's just the emphasis has changed. It's not as important. The horses move different. They're bigger, better movers. People don't put the same emphasis on the riders. It's more important to get the riders just competing and doing stuff than it is to get them really sitting well. But I do have to say the few riders that I really look at and think, wow, man, that person sits well, they really almost this day and age stand out like a sore thumb in a good way. Like they're really noticeable how much better they are. Although I don't think most people have a trained enough eye to even notice because they're only looking at the horses, because it just seems to go unsaid and unspoken too often that how valuable that position is, right? So you're one of those I'm just watching right now, and I wouldn't disagree with what you're saying about him. I think what he's pretty good. Like, he's presenting pretty well. Like, his body works well. He's in great shape. He's a nice mover. I think the work itself is going to be super easy. Granted, there are little things in there. He might get too heavy, too strong, to this and that now and then. That's easy to take care of. That kind of core position, if we lock that in, man, you'll have that forever.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you believe that the rider's position ultimately affects the horse?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And so it's absolutely right that, like, if I sit well, the horses are going to go better.
Okay.
It's not magic, though. It's not like if I just sit perfect, my horses go perfect. Okay. But there is a huge correlation to it. So that's part of it also, especially and I got to say, when he was starting, and I could see it in the rising trot, and that's all him. He has this bounce to his back that's going to make it hard to sit on. And so that's why I kind of go, I want to take a time out just for a minute and make sure we're having you in all the right spots so he doesn't take advantage of that, and or as he bounces you, that he doesn't then get a reason to be reactive or negative in his body.
Cool. We'll see you in February in San Antonio.
Oh, in San Antonio also,
yeah.
yeah.
And he'll do 4 rides then.
Oh, good. Okay, let's take him up again. You know Lilo Flores, a judge, one of our, did she just retire as an FEI judge? I think she did. Really nice lady, does a bunch of judging. She could be a little on the tough side sometimes, German. And I was probably, I was a little older than you, maybe 18. And I had my teacher who was like a military sergeant about position. I think I used to sit better at 19 than I do now. Although I think I'm smarter now than I was at 19. Although at 19 I thought I knew everything. But anyway, I remember I rode in a judge's clinic, and she was the judge. She was teaching the clinic for other judges. And I had a really easy to sit on horse, and I had at the time a little slimmer, really nice posture, rode around. She got to the bottom of the thing and she asked all the judges in the audience, she goes, what do you give him for position? And everybody in the audience, 7, 7, 7. One person said 8, one more 8, but lots of 7s. And she stopped and she goes, what is it about his position that he could make better? And everybody went, well, nothing, it's pretty good, it's pretty good. And they wouldn't criticize me, which was really nice. And Lila looked at me and she goes, there's nothing I could take this rider home and do to teach him to sit better than he's already sitting. On this horse, in this moment, on this day, right? And she turned around and she looked back at the judges and she goes, so why wouldn't we give him a 9 or a 10 for how well he sits? And all the judges went,
So you
well,
don't give those out.
I don't know. That's none of them, and didn't occur to any of them to ever go outside of a 7 zone. Like for them, an 8 was a 10 at the time. But it was interesting because the way she said it to the judges was, could you criticize anything about his position? There's also, when you come to the test, you have to have good effect of the 8. There's more to it than just the perfect way of sitting, right? But you do have to first have that kind of perfect posture and body control. But that also then gives you a greater effect on the horses' bodies. Especially one of the big ones that I hear all the time is, like, you might hear that now and then too, they're not a pretty rider, but they're effective, right? That's a load of bullshit. Because it's kind of like saying, you or me having a conversation and you say to me, or you say about me, let's say, Jeremy, man, he's a good communicator. But somebody in the audience is like, well, all he did was yell and scream all day long. So just because, and that's not my style, but just because somebody yells and screams at somebody doesn't mean they're a good communicator, right? Good communication would mean I can get my idea across with very little words, but lots of understanding. Does that make sense? Yeah. Same with position. You can't be effective, but not have a nice position, right? Or an ugly rider, in a sense. Okay, try it again. Good. Body super tall. Eyes. I want that discipline. That's like you have a nose as long as Pinocchio and you rest it between his ears. You could turn your head left or right as long as your nose stays right between his ears. No further than that. Good. That's one thing my teacher would say too, is like it's a dance between you and him. So as dance partners, you never want to throw the other person out of balance, right? Because you're the one that's going to have to rebalance that. So if you make a stumble, you actually make a double stumble in a sense, because your partner's going to stumble based on that, and you have to then also recover from that. Good. Leg nice and long, body super tall, chin up, hands together. Good. Yeah. Nice. Love it. Long side straight. So, only time you're allowed now to look in the mirror is on a straight line heading straight at it, right? For me right now, I'd say, that's okay. You can check on straightness. It's also a good trainer to get your eyes up and your posture even that much better. Good. But otherwise, when you make that corner now, your eyes stay on his ears, no turning your head. Good. Overall, just a touch more energy. Good. Super. Knee bent so the leg stays back. Good. Body tall. Hands coming together. Good. Eyes up. Right. Walk when you're ready. Just walk maybe 2 steps, trot again. And yeah, nice. Want a couple more of those, just as you want, as you're ready. Some quick transitions like that. Not quick like bad, but just quick, shift them back and forth a bunch. Good. Body tall, trot again. Yep, exactly. If it doesn't go, you can give them that little kick, little tap, totally fine. Hands coming together, heels down or toes up and in. Nice. Good discipline with your eyes now. Come across the diagonal. So, I said with the last rider too, you know the training scale, the training pyramid? Basic premise, right? Rhythm, suppleness, contact, straightening, impulsion, collection. So, when we talk about suppleness, right? What are we talking about? Let's say with him, right? If you were going to say to me he was supple or he wasn't supple, what would you be telling me? Because I'm going to say he looks pretty supple. And you might say, wait a minute, doesn't feel that supple. You might not. But I'm going to say he looks pretty supple. But what is it that makes up that?
I guess he's moving forward without rushing. He's in my hand without pulling.
Okay. So his body doesn't feel resistant. Is that right? That's one way you can kind of think about it. The forward is going to be more in the rhythm aspect, the speed control aspect. The suppleness is pretty specific about just going left and right side of his body. Is he malleable? Like if you take this left rein, does he yield to it? If you take the right rein, does he yield to it? If you close your left leg, does he kind of move away from it? If you close your right leg, does he move away from it? Or if you have this feeling like you kind of close your hand and he just locks his jaw and you can't bend it.
He does tend to do that.
It's not doing it, okay. So the suppleness, let's say then, basically let's put this premise out there. The suppleness is talking about the lateral positioning, bending of left and right. If he feels accessible left and right, bend-wise, he's supple. Now, if he feels heavy, tight in the back, braced at all, whatever that is, let's move that out of the suppleness and say, then he's not through, right? If he's not through, what's the next phase after suppleness anyway? Rhythm, suppleness, the next step on the training scale? Contact, yep. So rhythm, suppleness, contact. When we start to talk about the contact, we talk about the longitudinal aspect, the roundness, and the throughness. So within the throughness now we start to go, okay, now he's a little heavy, a little dull, tight in his back, kind of like you were describing in the beginning. That little trampoline-y type of back like he likes to have. We now need to ride hundreds of transitions. It's a little what I was getting at with some of the trot canters too. Transition after transition after transition to take the length of his body. If it's malleable left and right, which it looks soft enough, now we're going to transition them longitudinally. Hundreds of them. That's where your real throughness is going to come from. So the throughness has gotten more from the longitudinal aspect of the transition, the suppleness from the left and right bending aspect. Make sense? Okay, trot them again. Let's go back. A couple more of those. Trot walks, we'll mix in some walk canters. And I just want to see him work through some spectrum work. And not forward like you got to go big extended trots and back, but spectrum like walk to trot to canter to trot to walk to canter to walk to trot again. And just going, let's make sure 100% length of body longitudinally, absolutely malleable that way as well. That also is really good work when you work without stirrups, because it gives your body a second to have a breather through changing gaits. So even like, I want your abs a little burning right now, like you might feel it in your thighs, you should be feeling it in your shins too from pulling your toes up. But just to shift the gait sometimes, thank God, like my muscles get to relax for a second. 2 minutes later in that gait, they might get tight again, shift to another gait. That's good for the position work as well, but also now for him, if I ride, like, if you kind of think about it, like if I were to log in 50 transitions, seems like a lot, right? But think about the trot canters. We already did probably 15 or 20 trot canters already today, right? You just did 5 or 6 trot walks pretty easily without thinking. You've done a couple walk trots anyway after walk breaks, so I'd say we're pretty close to almost 30 transitions already. So what's another 20, right? We're going to do still more than that. So, but just be thinking on any given day, it's worth doing a good batch of those transitions as part of your workout routine. Some days you'll find like I need settling ones. Some days you'll find, man, he's so lazy, I need ones that motivate him. Some days he's heavy, so you need more that get him a little shocked off your hand better. Every day will be a little different with them, but kind of get in there and lots of transitions. Trot them when you're ready. That transition work then also just gets him more through, gets him half halting, gets his back softer. Yeah, this looks like there's less bounce already again. Legs staying back. Good. And trot again. You got it. Bending the knee, lower leg back. Body super tall. Good. Nice. Little contrary to popular belief, right? Like dressage riders. Most dressage riders think good position means leaning back. Good position doesn't mean leaning back, although the ability to lean back is good to have. But think just tall, long, chin up. Good. Yeah, trot again. Nice and quick with those. Yeah, it's fine. Down the long side when you're ready. Hands together, legs back, long. Good. Do you know what the alignment is that our body should have relative to the ground? You may or may not have heard that. You think shoulder, hip, and heel.
Yeah.
Right? You know that, yeah, as soon as I say it, you know it, right? Yeah. So we think that line has to hit the ground perpendicular at a 90-degree angle. That's part of where we don't want the leaning back, because the more back you go, the further forward the leg goes. The rule of thumb is, if I just could take a still picture, freeze, pick you up, put you on the ground, and then turn the motion back on, would you hit the ground standing on your feet, or would you hit the ground falling backwards, or the other tipping forward, right? Trot again. So that's part of what I'm getting at with that little bend in the knee to go, it doesn't, and like when I say you bend your knee, it doesn't have to be any more than what you're getting it. Just left to your own devices, which is normal. The leg will creep a little forward. Good. Body tall, eyes straight, no cheating. Knees bent. Good. And just a touch more ground covering. Good. Bending the knee, leg back, toe in, down the long side. That's good. Tall there in your upper body.
Circle or down one?
Down the long side, yep. Stretching up. Eyes up. Good, legs back. And still just a touch more ground covering. That's pretty good there. What I want you to think now, if we're thinking and talking about all those transitions, like if I were to take him, start him as a 3-year-old, we wouldn't be talking about half halts. He'd have no concept, right? We train transitions, and through all these transitions, they learn how to half halt. So what I want you to think is the transition is basically like a giant just half halt. Like you get to have a pillow fight and just smash them with it. So he kind of gets the idea in a very easy-going, almost playful way. Trot again, right away. So what I want with that is if I start to ride all those transitions, I'm just a little flick of the rein, he should walk, a little brush of the leg, back to trot. If he doesn't come back to walk, you can be a little tough with the hand. If he doesn't go from the leg, you can give him a little smack with the whip. And you go, I want you getting sharp to these two ends of this spectrum. Hot to my leg, hot to my hand. So if I start to get them hot to those two ends, I can start to take more risk on the power. If I start to take more risk on the power, I can get them looser. I can get them better moving. I can get them more uphill. I can challenge the whole package to work better. Walk again. Just close the hand. Boom. Walk. Sharp if you need. Trot again. Good. So you keep thinking, I'm going to start to up the power level. Pushing at him. The moment he tips out of balance, gets strong, gets stiff, gets a little charging, anything. Slap down with a walk. Or even halt. And it's just one stride of walk, trot again. Good. Toes up. Legs back. Good. Hands together. Nice. Canter again when you're ready. Just to get your abs breather. Stretch tall. Good. Add some power in there. Legs staying back. Body super tall. Good. Walk. Be firm about it, a little abrupt if you need. And walk all the way, canter again. Good. Reason I threw the walk in there is I just saw him, at least to me anyway, it looked like he kind of tipped down and got a little strong that one stride. Don't even have a conversation, just slap walk. Good. Yeah, you're going to say to him, I have to be able to ride your hind legs. I need to be able to tuck this body, this kind of whole core of these hind legs, your whole hind quarter underneath you. So if I go to drive that, and you go into my hand, walk, and then just right back to canter instantly. Toes up. Good. Little tap at it with the whip. Good. Just to go, could I tuck those hind legs under further? Nice. I like that with the hands together. Pull coming up nice and high. Good. Good. Walk. Think just 2 strides of walk. And canter. Right back to it. Good. Circle at this end, kind of going, don't get sleepy when I come to walk, meaning you've got to take off again. Walk the minute he tips a little low in front. And if you need to, yeah, you can be a little tough with the hand, going, don't lean into this. Canter again, good. Stay circle. And what you want to think with that is quietly going, we're going to start to get a little tough about how sharp he needs to be. So he gets almost anticipatory that if your fingers close, oh, man, I better rock back and walk. Because Dad's going to give me a little yank in the teeth if I don't. Yeah, it's fine. Just careful like that. I might have just followed through a little more with the hand once. Don't tap him in that moment. Only because he's already going against you. I don't want to add to that. Canter again, just 1 or 2 more like that. Good. High energy. You got it. pole up nice and high on his part, a little touch on it with the wind,